Hi everyone, I'm Anita Sharma. You're watching AnewZ live from Baku. Here's what's making news right now. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz loses the no confidence vote in the Bundestag, clearing the way for snap elections. Several hundred people are feared dead after Cyclone Cheeto hits the French island territory of Mayotte. Bitcoin hits a new high, sparked by the incoming U.S. government support for digital assets. We begin with Germany. The country faces a pivotal moment after Chancellor Olaf Scholz loses a parliamentary confidence vote. That paves the way now for early elections. The vote follows the collapse of his coalition government 2 months ago, leaving his administration without a majority.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has lost the parliamentary confidence vote following the collapse of his coalition government 2 months ago. The vote was initiated by Scholz himself to dissolve parliament and call for new elections after the Free Democratic Party exited the three-party coalition in November, leaving Scholz to lead a minority government. During the debate, Scholz framed the upcoming election as a decision on Germany's future course, highlighting investment priorities. CDU leader Friedrich Merz criticized Scholz's economic policies and called for fiscal restraints. Germany's political system is currently fragmented, with newer parties gaining influence. The election is expected to reshape the country's parliamentary composition as parties prepare for coalition negotiations.
Several hundred people are feared dead in the French island territory of Mayotte after Cyclone Cheeto hit overnight, devastating the islands. Officials of the archipelago in the southwest Indian Ocean warn the final death toll could be in the thousands.
Cyclone Cheeto, with winds exceeding 220 kilometers per hour, struck Mayotte directly, making it a Category 4 storm. Overturned containers and flattened homes revealed the storm's devastation in archipelago that belongs to France. French Interior Ministry confirmed at least 11 deaths and over 250 injuries. However, it also stated that determining the exact death toll will be challenging and no official figure is available yet. Speaking to local media on Sunday, Mayotte Prefect François-Xavier Bieuville called it the worst cyclone to hit the French territory in 90 years.
It's extremely difficult to say. I think number of the dead will certainly be several hundreds, perhaps approaching 1,000 or even a few thousands. But it's obvious that, given the violence of this event, we all experience it in our flesh, in our family, with our loved ones, our colleagues.
Bieuville warned that the real toll is likely far higher, particularly in slums of metal shacks that suffered the worst devastation. France has deployed rescue teams and supplies to the Indian Ocean territory, where the cyclone caused widespread destruction. The intense storm on Saturday damaged public infrastructure, including the airport, flattened neighborhoods, and cut electricity.
What we need right now is help, bottled water, food and medical aid, because even the biggest hospital here in Mayotte is damaged. Also everything is destroyed there, so we need massive support. Even the search and rescue vehicles, their hangar is completely destroyed. We need a lot of equipment to clean all that up.
Nearby islands such as Comoros and Madagascar were also affected, but Mayotte suffered the most. The island, France's poorest territory and home to over 300,000 people, is struggling to recover from the shock of storm's impact.
To Syria now, where during a meeting with the country's de facto leader Ahmad al-Sharan in Damascus, the UN Syria envoy urged an inclusive transition based on a 9-year-old Security Council resolution. That is according to Geir Pedersen's office. Syria's ruling General Command, in a separate statement about the meeting with the UN's Geir Pedersen, said they discussed the need to review Security Council Resolution 2254, saying it needed to be updated to, quote, suit the new reality. Pedersen earlier expressed hopes that lifting sanctions on Syria could support quick economic recovery. The European Union takes its first step toward direct engagement with Syria's new government. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says the bloc's top diplomat for Syria will travel to Damascus for talks with the new leadership.
EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas' statement signals a potential shift in the EU's approach to the region, marking a more direct engagement with Syria's government.
I've also tasked a European top diplomat in Syria to go to Damascus to make the contacts with the new government and people there. So we will also discuss today in the Foreign Affairs Council how we engage with the new leadership of Syria and on what level we engage with the new leadership. And of course, what more steps are we willing to take if we see that Syria goes to the right direction.
The move comes amidst ongoing concerns about Syria's future and the actions of its new leadership. Over the weekend, representatives from the EU, US, UK, UN and Arab nations gathered in Agaba, Jordan, where they signed a joint declaration on Syria. The declaration calls for the protection of human rights, including the rights of women and minorities, while expressing full support for Syria's unity, territorial integrity and sovereignty. EU heads of state and government are set to discuss the situation in Syria further at the upcoming European Council meeting on the 19th of December.
For the first time, the British government had, quote, diplomatic contact with the rebel group that toppled the Syrian government. However, UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy reiterates that the group remains prescribed as a terror organization. Let's get more details now from Stuart Smith in London.
The Foreign Secretary's remarks came as the UK promised an additional $60 million in aid to support vulnerable Syrians. The minister said that will include food, healthcare and other aid. British diplomats met in Jordan at the weekend with partners to agree on the importance of a non-sectarian and representative government. The UK agreed with the Arab League's contact group on Syria, as well as partners Bahrain, the UAE, Turkey and Qatar, that the new powers in Syria must protect human rights, provide unfettered access to aid and ensure the safe destruction of chemical weapons. HTS remains a prescribed terror group here in the UK, but the government says that doesn't mean it can't have diplomatic relations with them. But last week, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that it was too early to make a decision on changing the status of HTS, and the Foreign Minister says the group will be judged on how it treats the Syrian people. Stuart Smith in London for AnewZ.
In Moscow, the Kremlin says no final decision has been made on the fate of Russia's military bases in Syria. This after Syrian officials said Russia is pulling its troops from the bases. Russia also claims to be in direct contact with Syria's new authorities.
A week after Syria's government was toppled following a rebel group taking control of the country, the Kremlin in Russia say a definitive decision concerning the fate of their military bases in Syria is yet to be made. Russia says it has already evacuated diplomatic personnel from Syria's capital, Damascus, and has established contact with the rebel leaders.
There are no final decisions on this issue at the current moment. We have contacts with representatives of those in control of the situation in the country now, and everything will be settled through dialogue.
These statements come as reports from Syria claim Russia is actively withdrawing its troops from the front lines in the northern part of the country. Cargo planes have been spotted arriving at the Hmeimim air base in Syria's Latakia province, and satellite imagery released by Maksar shows what appears to be the loading of military equipment. More activity has been observed on the ground, following footage showing a large convoy of Russian military vehicles on the highway between Damascus and the city of Homs. more than 150 military vehicles have been spotted by Britain's Channel 4 News. The fall of Syria's government comes as a blow to Russia, which supported it. However, there are claims that Russia has no intentions of leaving its two main bases in the country.
Amid Syria's shifting political landscape, a former Syrian soldier seeking asylum in the Netherlands fears deportation to a country where defectors may face deadly consequences. As Europe tightens immigration policies, tens of thousands of Syrian asylum claims remain in limbo.
Former soldier in the Syrian government army, Ahmad Masri, who fled Syria in 2017 and arrived in the Netherlands in 2023, is studying English while awaiting news on his asylum status.
They execute to people who were working with ex-regime. So how can we go back again to Syria? For example, if I go back, maybe they will kill me. Not maybe a big chance. I have a big chance for kill me because they cannot accept. Again, we don't treat with deal people. We don't treat with automated people. We deal with barbar people, you know. Who will decide Syria is a safe country? I advise him, and maybe I suggest him, go to Syria, then you can decide if Syria is safe or not. Because Syria now, after the overthrow the regime, is a big mess. There is a lot of big mess over there, big mess. Then a lot of terrorist groups over there. There's no strong system, strong regime. So people live like, how can we tell you, like mafia over there.
Last week, the Dutch government, along with other European nations, suspended asylum applications from Syrians after rebels seized the Syrian capital and President Bashar al-Assad fled to Russia. This decision impacts tens of thousands of pending claims and reflects Europe's shifting stance on immigration, fueled by the rise of right-wing parties. Far-right leader Geert Wilders has called for Syrians to be sent back, further complicating Masri's hope for a work permit if granted asylum.
Farmers in Spain stage a protest against a trade agreement between the European Union and Latin American countries known as the EU-Mercosur deal. They worry large imports from Latin American countries could create unfair competition within the Union.
Farmers calling for fairness. Hundreds of farmers gathered in Spain's capital, Madrid, to voice their concerns over the recently agreed EU-Mercosur deal. These farmers claim the agreement will create inequality, as it will allow for massive imports from Latin America to compete with the local produce in Europe.
We have no choice but to go out and fight a little bit, because if we don't, in the end we'll have to start working on something else, because this won't be profitable.
With the Mercosur agreement that is going to be reached, all products will be able to enter without any limitations. As farmers and stock breeders, we have a lot of restrictions so that the consumer has a guarantee, and it turns out that the ministry neither defends farmers from stock breeders, nor does it defend consumers.
The agreement between the EU and Latin America includes Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Uruguay, and could allow up to 99,000 tons of beef and up to 1 million tons of maize, among others, to be imported into Europe. The deal was announced by the European Commission's President, Ursula von der Leyen, who says it will create opportunities within Europe.
Let me address my fellow Europeans. This agreement is a win for Europe. 60,000 companies are exporting today to Mercosur, 30,000 of them small and medium enterprises. They benefit from reduced tariffs, simpler custom procedures, and preferential access to some critical raw materials. This will create huge business opportunities.
The trade deal, however, is just the start of a lengthy process. It still needs to be legalized, translated, and then approved by member nations, and could even be blocked, with France being strongly against the deal.
Meantime, EU officials will travel to Ireland early next year in a final effort to convince Irish farmers to support a deal with the South American Mercosur trade bloc. EU officials will try to resolve issues around possible high volumes of paperwork and provide a clearer understanding of the deal. The Mercosur agreement, finalized earlier this month after 25 years of negotiations, promises significant tariff reductions and new markets for European goods. Irish Farmers Association, however, strongly opposes the deal, branding it as a, quote, sellout. Turning to Russia, it faces more sanctions amid the war in Ukraine. The European Union adopts its 15th sanctions package, and another one is being prepared for January. The latest package targets 52 vessels from Russia's, quote, shadow fleet, which bypass Western restrictions to transport oil, arms, and grain. It also includes 84 new individuals and entities, including 7 Chinese targets for facilitating sanctions evasion and supplying military components to Russia. The first full sanctions on China include a travel ban and an asset freeze. The EU also adds Russian energy sector managers, North Korean officials, and entities in countries such as India and Iran. In business news, Bitcoin surges to a new record high, crossing above $106,000 US for one single coin.
With Bitcoin hitting new heights, analysts are now eyeing the next milestone of 110,000 US dollars. The cryptocurrency market has been in the spotlight as investors bet that the incoming Trump administration will create a more crypto-friendly regulatory environment, further boosting confidence in digital assets. Bitcoin has soared by 192% this year alone. According to data from July, governments across the globe hold 2.2% of Bitcoin's total supply, with the United States holding nearly 200,000 Bitcoins, valued at more than $20 billion at current prices. Other nations with significant Bitcoin reserves include China, the United Kingdom, Bhutan, and El Salvador. Several countries are now considering establishing their own cryptocurrency reserves. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently commented that the U.S. administration is undermining the role of the dollar as the world's reserve currency, prompting many nations to turn to alternative assets like Bitcoin. However, there are skeptics. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has compared Bitcoin to gold. And analysts caution that the idea of a national Bitcoin reserve would take time to materialize. Since the November 5th election, Bitcoin has risen by more than 50%, largely due to Trump's election and the success of other crypto-friendly candidates. The total value of the cryptocurrency market has more than doubled this year, now surpassing $3.8 trillion US.
While the Bitcoin breakthrough continues, with the flagship cryptocurrency crossing the 100,000 mark for the very first time, Bitcoin bulls will no doubt say, "I told you so," while the bears still struggle with this concept. Joining me now to discuss big moves in Bitcoin is Fariz Guliev. He is with TaxFlow Right and an expert on Bitcoin. Fariz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Anita.
Tell me, what does this latest breakthrough mean for Bitcoin?
Well, yeah, as you've already mentioned, the Bitcoin has been the hot topic within the last 1 year and a half. And, this is the correlated asset with the NASDAQ composite, NASDAQ index. And, the Bitcoin is all around the place. And, the Bitcoin price is directly linked to the AI and technological advances. Do you hear me?
Okay,
Yeah.
Fareeze, I'm having
So
trouble hearing you. I'm not sure if this is an audio issue that we're going to sort out in the gallery, in the control room. But if I'll just ask you another question. If you can hear me, how bullish
sure.
are you on Bitcoin moving forward?
Yes. The Bitcoin is expected by all sorts of analysts in the Wall Street and Main Street to go up to 150,000 dollars and 150,000 K throughout the end of the year. And we're expecting the Bitcoin price to be directly linked to cyber ransoms, all sorts of crisis, building triggers around the globe. Whenever those things happen, they're possibly related to Bitcoin price. Plus, the spot ETFs all around the globe are adding much volume, much juice to the price of the Bitcoin because they're getting long all sorts of ETF-based spot investors. Last week only we've seen $11 billion flushed into the Bitcoin ETF funds, and the most prominent analysts in the Wall Street and all around the globe, they're basically bullish and they're expecting the price to rally up to 150s by the end of the year.
Wow. So my apologies. I missed what you said earlier due to the technical issue. So if you're going to repeat yourself, I hope you don't have a problem with that. But you're seeing 150. You're seeing that as maybe the next tranche, if you will, higher for Bitcoin. It is bullish, right? You've got a Trump administration that's coming in. He's appointing people who are very, let's say, pro cryptocurrency. He really is setting the stage for Bitcoin and its colleagues, if you will, in this area to soar higher.
Sure, absolutely. They normally call it Trump trade. Towards the end of the year, they're looking for a quick spike in the volume and price of the Bitcoin. But by the last week of the year, it's expected that the price will stall a little bit, and just because of the this is a tax related price reduction towards the end of the New Year's Eve related week. But we're normally expecting a regular bullish environment starting with the beginning of the next year as well. So the consensus normally here is we're looking at the Trump's trade tariff related comments and his kind of dovish reaction towards the wars in Ukraine and all should definitely add to the Bitcoin.
Okay, you talked about volatility. Let's go there. After those 2021 highs, boy, did we see Bitcoin crash significantly, and that really separated the serious players from folks who were really quite speculative. And of course, some would argue it still is a speculative situation with respect to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Who should be in the Bitcoin game? Who should be in the crypto game?
Definitely. The crypto is normally, encapsulating a market cap of almost $4 trillion. This $4 trillion is almost at par with the FTSE 100, the UK market cap. But that being said, since the volatility and standard deviation price movements is vicious for Bitcoin, we're not expecting retail traders or retail investors in Bitcoin. We're normally looking at idiosyncratic investors for portfolio managers looking for risk reduction in their portfolio. And that comes down to big scale, deep pocketed investors like Grayscale, Blackstone, those sort of investors. We're looking for we're expecting them to flush in a lot of money into the Bitcoin ETF funds and all. That being said, we're definitely thinking that with the invent of the AI and expansion of the AI and its applications, we're thinking that Bitcoin is definitely gonna hover around 150,000. And that's a consensus, by FS Inside and all other analysts that are sitting in Wall Street and a couple of blocks away probably, but they're definitely looking for it.
What do you think? Let's talk a little bit more about the retail investor. You're talking about the whales earlier, certainly creating big moves with Bitcoin. But let's talk about the retail investor. I've seen anything from various financial advisors saying that, look, if you can stomach the volatility, if you want to participate in the game, if you want to grab a flagship coin, i.e. Bitcoin, maybe come in at, let it not represent more than 5% of your portfolio. What are your thoughts on that?
Normally, big investors, just like you said, big investors, they're looking at, when they place block sales or block purchases, they're not, interested in the real-time price of the Bitcoin at that specific moment. And normally, when they place their buy orders, they normally viciously, can make the price of Bitcoin rally 10-15% for a day. I believe we're going to see a really vicious, spikes towards the beginning of the next year by, getting investors in, buying big blocks and even probably reaching the price up to 200,000, in my understanding. But
Wow.
from portfolio manager's perspective, Bitcoin should never be any time over 5, 6, 7% of their overall portfolio. I'm not talking about hedge funds. The hedge funds are really on both sides of the equation here. They do technical analysis, they get in and out and all that. They try to sweep the loss limits on sales, and then fit in. They play momentum. But if you're talking about big investors, pension fund style investors, if you will, they will definitely not gonna add more than 5-6%, because this is not really related or somehow correlated with the equity markets, other than NASDAQ probably. But so it's just a idiosyncratic risk neutral asset for all those whales.
Fariz, let's talk about a group that's not even really in this. We talk about the whales, we talk about the retail investor. Pew Research Center just published this survey, but they took it back in February before this latest rip in Bitcoin. And the survey suggested that in the US, about 63% of Americans said they have little to no confidence that the current ways to invest, trade, or use crypto are reliable and safe. What do you say to that crowd that is still very skeptical about getting into this trade?
Okay, I'm not sure about the details and the sources of these social surveys, so to speak. But I personally know certain CEOs of let's say Coinbase of Canada and all that. We've been studying together and analyzing this stuff. I'm pretty much sure that these concerns or reserves are not really are really baseless. And as time passes, we see that both the for federal taxation purposes and for state tax purposes, the Bitcoin becomes ever accepted currency, means of exchange. And so we do believe that it adds to the coincidence of bonds, and it becomes just one of the other means of exchange, just like a fiat currency. Yeah, but you know what? What's more interesting here is that as the AI and high tech related complexities become more prevalent in the global marketplace, the Bitcoin price ever adds up. If anything goes wrong, if any cyber attack happens, you see the Bitcoin price, hiking up.
Right.
And there are a lot of triggers that will definitely keep the price up.
Let's stay on this beat for a second. There's a lot of confusion around Bitcoin. What's up is down, what's down is up. When you mention regulation in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in the same sentence, it would normally mean the price of the crypto would drop, that the crypto is not a friend of regulation, if you will. But now, Fariz, it seems like all this talk of regulation, all this talk of the incoming Trump administration recognizing cryptocurrency, it's now bullish for this coin and for many coins.
Absolutely, anything. Just like you said, the Bitcoin has not been able to live his full velocity life cycle. Adding to that, any positive note from the Grand Old Party or maybe Democratic Party, any party that adds a positive note on the Bitcoin, it definitely keeps the price up. It gives it a momentum. So Bitcoin has already been a proven mean of exchange, and we're gonna see only a positive notes on this, and we're gonna be pretty much bullish about throughout the rest of the year, as far as Bitcoin is concerned.
Yeah, it looks like we definitely have to buckle up for a wild ride. Back in July, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump saying that he was going to create a, quote, strategic national Bitcoin reserve, similar to the oil reserve. And he also predicted Bitcoin could eclipse, gold's 16 trillion market cap. So wild times ahead. Great analysis here. Fariz Guliev, thank you so much for joining us, sir, and we look forward to chatting with you again real soon.
Thank you guys for having me.
You bet. Let's get to some other news now. Azerbaijan will chair the conference on interaction and confidence building measures in Asia for the 2024-2026 period. The meeting Tuesday will entail passing the chairmanship from Kazakhstan to Azerbaijan. This biannual meeting brings together foreign ministers from the 28 member states across Asia to discuss global and regional issues of peace and security. It is expected that a number of documents will be adopted. The next highest level CICA gathering will take place in 2026, during which the 7th summit will be held at the conclusion of Azerbaijan's chairmanship term.
In September 2023, the
Political changes are underway right now in Kyrgyzstan, where President Sadir Japarov has dismissed Prime Minister Akilbek Japarov after more than 2 years in office.
Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov has signed a decree removing Akilbek Japarov from his position as Prime Minister and head of the presidential administration. The announcement was made by the Presidential Press Service. Akilbek Japarov, who has served as Prime Minister since October 2021, was dismissed as part of the transition to a new role. According to the decree, the Cabinet of Ministers will not be dissolved and will continue its work under Acting Prime Minister Adilbek Kasımaliyev, who previously served as First Deputy Prime Minister. Although no official details were provided about Akilbek Japarov's new assignment, speculations have circulated on social media suggesting he may become Kyrgyzstan's ambassador to the United States, a position currently vacant.
In Turkey, the historic Sumela Monastery, located in Trabzon, has turned into a captivating winter wonderland following 2 days of snowfall.
Carved into a steep cliff of Mount Karadağ overlooking the Altındere Valley, this ancient structure, also known as the Virgin Mary among locals, sits approximately 300 meters above the valley floor. The monastery, surrounded by dense forest, now wears a pristine white coat, enhancing its mystical aura. Sumela Monastery remains a top destination for history enthusiasts and nature lovers, offering a rare blend of architectural marvels and natural beauty. While summer remains a popular season, winter visits offer a serene and unforgettable experience. Sumela Monastery, listed as a tentative UNESCO World Heritage Site, was reopened for religious practices on August 15, 2010, after a hiatus of 88 years. Whether blanketed in green or white, this iconic landmark continues to be a symbol of Turkey's rich cultural and historical heritage.
That's all from us. Thank you so much for watching ANewZ. Please stay up to date by visiting our website, anews.tv. Bye for now.